When people think of Viking godmads, they imagine wildeed warriors consumed by battle frenzy, unstoppable killing machines who felt no pain. The stuff of legend and fantasy movies, right? The truth is so much worse. Godmads weren't just warriors who worked themselves into a fury. They were men specifically marked by Raven King himself, cursed with a mind-breaking fury that destroyed everything it touched, including them. Imagine having a monster living inside your skull that takes over without warning, leaves you surrounded by corpses, and retreats just long enough for you to remember what you've done. Now imagine knowing this nightmare wasn't some disease or madness that could be cured. It was a god. The god whispering directly into your brain. And he's hungry. Quick thing before we start. If these help you sleep, like or subscribe would be cool. Also, drop where you're listening from and the time. I check the comments, and it's crazy seeing people from like Australia and Norway on the same video. So, we're going back to 9th century Norway tonight. But hold on. Get yourself comfortable first. I mean it. Fix your pillows. Grab that blanket. This one's worth settling in for. The cold hits your face first, not the gentle chill of your bedroom with the window cracked open. This is Norway and winter's coming. It's the kind of cold that makes your eyeballs hurt. You're lying on a wooden platform raised slightly off the dirt floor. The wool blanket covering you is scratchy against your skin, but it traps your body heat, creating the only warmth in this single-room house. Above you, the thatch roof is black with old smoke. The smell of last night's fire, pine resin, and birch mingles with the earthier scents of the household. Dried fish hanging from the rafters, the slightly sour milk in wooden buckets, the sweat of unwashed bodies, though not as many as you'd think. Unlike what you've heard about Vikings, most actually bathed weekly. Saturday, Larda, wash day. But it's not Saturday, and the cold air stings your nostrils with each breath. You're not alone in this house. The snoring comes from all sides. Your family sleeps on platforms lining the walls. Everyone together in one space. The fire pit in the center of the room has died down to embers, casting just enough red glow to make out shadowy lumps of sleeping people. Through gaps in the wooden wall planks, you can see the first gray light of dawn. Hold up. Let me paint you a clearer picture. This is your 5th winter, which means you were born in 821. You're small for your age, but already helping with chores. Your mom's been up since before dawn, stoking the fire, warming the morning GR. She moves quietly, but you're already awake. You've been awake for hours. You're always awake. Sleep doesn't come easy to you. Never has. Vigma, your mother whispers, noticing your open eyes. Up now there's work. There's always work. Wood needs chopping. Water needs hauling. Goats need feeding. In a few years, you'll be old enough to help with hunting or fishing. For now, it's just the endless small tasks that keep a Viking household running. Your mother's name is Helga. She's younger than she looks, maybe 25, but life here ages people fast. Her hands are rough from work, her face lined from worry. She doesn't smile much, but when she does, it transforms her. Not that you see those smiles often, especially not directed at you. Where's father? You ask, though you already know the answer. On the sea, she says shortly, not looking at you. Eat. She places a wooden bowl in your hands. The GRL is thick, made from barley, boiled with milk and a bit of dried fish. It's bland but filling. A child working outside in the Norwegian cold needs calories. Your father, Bjorn, has been gone for months. He's part of a raid on the eastern lands. You've heard the men talk about places called Wenland and Gardariki, lands of riches and slaves. The men who returned from last year's raid brought silver arm rings and boasted of their victories. Your father wasn't among them. He stayed to establish trade routes to build connections with the people there. At least that's what your mother tells you. You're eating when you first feel it. That familiar tightness in your chest. The slight burning behind your eyes. The way sounds suddenly seem too loud. The scraping of spoons against bowls. Your cousin's breathing. Your own heartbeat pounding in your ears. No, your mother says sharply, seeing the change in your face. Not today, Vigma. Control it. But you can't control it. You've tried. The fury comes when it wants to, rising from somewhere deep inside you, turning the world red. It started when you were 3, the first time you destroyed every pot in the house. The second time you bit a chunk out of your cousin's arm. Now at 5, the fury comes more frequently, and it's getting stronger. Your hands start to shake. The wooden bowl cracks in your grip. Outside, your mother hisses, grabbing your arm. Now, she practically throws you out the door into the cold morning air. The shock of it should calm you, but instead it feeds the fire. The fury wants out. It wants to break things, to hurt things. You know, it's not normal. Other children don't feel this way. They get angry, sure, but not like this. Not this consuming fury that makes them foam at the mouth and attack anything that moves. Your mother's taken you to the village healer who gave you bitter herbs to drink. She's taken you to the old women who know the ancient ways. Nothing helps. Run, she tells you, standing in the doorway. Go to the forest. Don't come back until it's past. So you run past the other long houses where smoke rises from roof holes. Past the animal pens where goats and sheep huddle against the cold. Past the fields where summer's crops have been harvested. Into the forest with its tall pines and old oaks, where the ground is carpeted with needles and leaves. And there among the trees you let the fury take you. I know, sounds fake, but wait. It comes in waves, this anger. First the shaking, then the heat that rises from your belly to your chest to your head until you're burning with it. Your vision narrows, tunnels, goes red at the edges. Your mouth fills with saliva that froths between your teeth. And the sounds gods, the sounds you make are not human. Howls, screams, grunts like a wounded animal. You attack a tree, pounding it with your small fists until they bleed. You pick up stones and hurl them, not caring where they land. You bite the bark, tear at branches, kick at roots. The fury wants destruction, and you give it what it wants, because fighting it is like trying to hold back the tide. How long it lasts, you never know. Time works differently in the red haze, but eventually, always, it passes. The fire burns itself out, leaving you empty and cold and tired. So tired, you collapse to the forest floor. Your hands crimson tidy, your throat roar from screaming, your muscles aching. This is when the shame comes, the fear. What's wrong with you? Why are you like this? The other village children avoid you. The adults whisper when you pass. Only your mother stands between you and complete isolation. And even she looks at you sometimes like you're a stranger. A changeling left in her real son's place. You're crying now, curled up on the cold ground, your tears freezing on your cheeks. This is the aftermath, the fury, then the emptiness, then the grief. Always the same pattern. Boy, the voice startles you. You sit up quickly, wiping your face. A man stands among the trees, watching you. He's old with a long gray beard and one eye, the other hidden behind a patch. He wears a cloak of raven feathers and leans on a staff of twisted wood. You recognize him. Everyone in the village knows Halvar the Wanderer. He's a Galramard, a magic man, a seer. Some say he can speak to the gods. Others say he's mad. Most people give him a wide berth, but they also leave offerings at his hut on the edge of the village. Food me, small treasures just in case. I've been watching you, Halvar says. His voice is like stones grinding together for some time now. You don't answer. Your mother has warned you about Halvar. He has one foot in this world and one in the other, she said. Such men are dangerous. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets weird. Halvar approaches slowly, his staff tapping against the forest floor. Do you know what's happening to you, boy? He asks. You shake your head. The fury, the battle madness. He stops in front of you, looking down with his one good eye. Do you know what they call men who are touched by such a thing? Again, you shake your head. God mad, he says, and the word seems to hang in the cold air between you. Bare shirts, Raven King's mocked warriors. Your brains doing the math. Touched by a god. One death by stabbing. Not a great forecast. You've heard of godmads. Everyone has. Elite warriors who fight like animals, who feel no pain, who cannot be stopped by normal men. They're the king's special forces, his shock troops. But they're grown men, not small boys who can barely lift an axe. I'm not a warrior, you say. Your voice small in the vast forest. Halvar laughs, a sound like ice cracking. Not yet, but you will be. The All-Father has marked you, child. He's put his spirit in you. That fury you feel, that's Raven King's burden. You think of the destruction your burden has already caused. The fear in your mother's eyes, the isolation, some burden. I don't want it, you say. Halvar's face hardens. It's not about what you want. The gods choose who they choose. Your path is already set. He leans down, his face close to yours, his breath smelling of herbs and something else, something sour. Do you know why Raven King gives this burden to some men? You shake your head. Because he needs warriors in Valhalla. He needs the fiercest, the strongest, the most fearless to fight at Ragnarok. The end of all things. Halvar straightens up. You've been marked for a great honor, boy, and a great burden. Will it always be like this? You ask, thinking of the fury, the loss of control, the aftermath. It will get worse before it gets better, Halvar says bluntly. But in time, with the right training, you can learn to channel it, to use it rather than be used by it. How? The question bursts from you, desperate. If there's a way to control this thing inside you, you need to know. But Halvar just shakes his head. Not yet. You're too young. The training would kill you. He studies you for a long moment. When you're older, if you survive that long, come find me. I'll teach you what I know. He turns to go, then pauses, looking back at you. Until then, boy, try not to kill anyone important. And like he appeared, he's gone, moving between the trees with surprising speed for an old man, leaving you alone with his words echoing in your head. God mad, Raven King's marked, a burden and a burden. You sit there until the cold seeps into your bones, until your mother will surely be wondering where you are. You think about what Halvar said about being marked, about Raven King's burden. Is it true, or is the old man as mad as people say? You don't know, but for the first time since the fury began, you have a name for it. And somehow that helps a little. When you return to the village, your mother is waiting, her face tight with worry and something else. Resignation, maybe. She sees the crimson tide on your hands, the tears on your face, and sighs. It's getting worse, she says. It's not a question. You nod. The old man found you, didn't he? Again, not really a question. He said, I'm a god mad, you tell her. Marked by Raven King. Your mother's face goes pale. She grabs your shoulders, fingers digging in hard enough to bruise. Listen to me, Vigmar. Halvar doesn't know what he's talking about. He's mad. You are not that. You're just a child with a temper. That's all. But the lie sits poorly on her tongue, and you can see the truth in her eyes. She's known, or at least suspected, for some time now. Mother, you say, and your voice sounds older than your 5 years. What's happening to me? She lets go of your shoulders, her hands falling to her sides. For a moment, she seems about to cry, something you've never seen. But think about what Halvar said about being marked, about the fury being a burden. You don't feel marked. You don't feel burdened. You feel cursed. That night, for the first time in memory, you dream. Usually, your sleep is black and empty when it comes at all. But tonight you dream of a great hall where shields line the walls and spears form the rafters. You dream of a high seat where a one-eyed man watches you, his gaze heavy with expectation. You dream of battle and crimson tide and glory. And when you wake in the cold pre-dawn, your heart pounding and your hands clenched into fists, you know deep in your bones that Halvar was right. The All-Father has marked you, and there's no escaping his call. You're only 5 years old, just a small child in a cold country, but already your path is set. Written in the runes of fate, a god-mad, one of Raven King's elite warriors. It should be an honor. Instead, it feels like a death sentence. Speaking of death, 3 years later, your father's ship returns from the eastern lands, but your father isn't on it. The men speak of a battle, a wound that festered, a burial at sea. Your mother receives the news with a stony face. But that night, you hear her crying in the darkness. Your fury explodes the next day, worse than ever before. You're 8 now, bigger, stronger. It takes 3 grown men to hold you down, to stop you from hurting yourself or others. When it passes, leaving you limp and empty, your mother makes a decision. He needs training, she tells the village elders. He needs to learn to control it. They agree. A child with the god-mad fury untrained is too dangerous to keep in the village. You're to be sent away to live with a group of warriors who know how to handle your kind, who can teach you to channel the fury, to use it in battle where it belongs. Your mother doesn't cry when you leave. She hugs you tightly, her body rigid, then pushes you toward the waiting warriors. Be strong, she says, and come back to me if you can. That's the last thing she says to you. The last time you see her, the warriors, grim men with battle scars and cold eyes, lead you away from everything you've known, toward what you're not sure. Training, control, battle, death, probably. But as the village disappears behind you, as you walk toward your new life, you feel something unexpected. Relief. Relief that you won't have to see the fear in your mother's eyes anymore. Relief that you'll be among others like you. Relief that maybe, just maybe, you'll learn to live with Raven King's burden. The warriors don't speak to you much on the journey. They feed you, make sure you don't run off, but otherwise leave you alone. It's only on the 3rd day as you approach a fortified camp in the hills that one of them, a huge man with a forked beard and arms like tree trunks, finally addresses you directly. "Boy," he says, his voice surprisingly gentle for such a fearsome-looking man. "Whatever you think you know about what you are, forget it. Being a god-mad isn't just about fury. It's about control. It's about brotherhood. It's about service." He looks down at you, his eyes hard but not unkind. "It won't be easy. Many don't survive the training, but if you do," he trails off, then shrugs. "Well, let's see if you survive first." With those comforting words, he leads you through the gates of the camp into your new life, into the brotherhood of godmads, into Raven King's service. You look back once toward the distant village, toward your mother. Then you turn away. That life is over. This one, harder, stranger, more dangerous, is just beginning. You're 8 years old, and you're about to learn what it truly means to be marked by the gods. I know, right? Rough gig. But here's where it gets intense. The warriors don't waste time with welcomes. The moment you step through the gates of the camp, a stone-faced man with a gray beard shoves a wooden axe into your hands. Too small for a real one, he grunts, looking you up and down. You'll earn steel when your arms can swing it. The training ground is packed dirt, surrounded by wooden buildings, sleeping quarters, a mee hall, a bathhouse, an armory. Men move around with purpose. Some practicing with weapons, others carrying supplies. All of them have the same look: hard eyes, scarred bodies, and an air of barely contained violence. Your guide, the one with the forked beard, introduces himself as Gunnar. That's all you need to know for now, he says. You'll learn the others' names if you survive long enough to care. The first 3 days, they don't let you near the other godmads. You sleep in a small hut on the edge of the camp. They feed you better than you ate at home actually, and they watch you, always watching. On the 4th day, Gunnar brings you to the training ground at dawn. 20 men form a circle in the center. They range in age from teenagers to grizzled veterans. All are muscled, scarred, and serious. This is the new one, Gunnar announces. Vigmar, 8 winters already showing the signs. You stand there clutching your wooden axe, feeling incredibly small. The men study you with expressions ranging from curiosity to disdain. He's a runt, one says. So was Halfdan, another counters. Now he's the biggest among us. 8 is young. A third comments. Most don't show signs until 12 at least. Raven King chooses when he chooses, Gunnar says with finality. The boy's here now. He'll train with us. And just like that, your new life begins. Every morning starts the same. You wake before dawn, plunge your head into a bucket of ice-cold water, then run barefoot. Even in winter, around the perimeter of the camp. 5 laps to start. More as you get stronger. After running comes weapons training. Hours of it. Axe, sword, spear, shield. Your arms shake. Your palms blister. Your wooden axe feels like it weighs as much as you do. When you drop it, they make you do push-ups in the mud. When you cry only once, they make you run extra laps. Tears are for the dead, your trainer says. And you're still breathing. Brutal. Oh, you have no idea. Let me paint you a clearer picture. The food here is better than at home, but you earn every bite. Breakfast is porridge with honey, sometimes dried fruit. Lunch is bread, cheese, dried meat. Dinner is the main meal, usually stew, with whatever meat the hunters brought in, vegetables from the garden, and always mead. Even the younger boys get a small cup. It helps with sleep, they say. The older boys, 12, 13 winters, mostly ignore you. The adults treat you like a curious pet, something to be trained and tested, but not yet taken seriously, except for Ragnar. Ragnar is the oldest godmad in the camp, maybe 50 winters, with a face like weathered leather and one arm ending at the elbow. He watches you during training, his eyes sharp under bushy white brows. One evening about 2 weeks after your arrival, he sits beside you at dinner. You're fighting it, he says without preamble. You look up from your stew, confused. The burden, he clarifies. You're fighting against it. That's why you struggle. I'm struggling because I'm 8, and that axe is heavy. You mutter. He laughs. A sound like rocks in a barrel. Smart mouth on you. Good. You'll need that. His face turns serious. But listen, boy. The fury the godmad gang gets not your enemy. It's the All-Father's burden. The sooner you accept that, the sooner you'll learn to channel it. You think about the uncontrollable fury that's ruled your life so far. It doesn't feel like a burden. It feels like a curse. Ragnar nods unsurprised. They all say that at first, but you'll learn. He stands, patting your shoulder with his remaining hand. You'll learn because you have no choice. None of us did. The next day, they pair you with Halfdan for sparring. He's 16, tall and broad, with dirty blonde hair tied back in a knot. Despite what you'd heard, he doesn't seem particularly friendly as he circles you on the training ground. Don't hold back, Gunnar instructs from the sidelines. The child needs to learn. He'll learn to die, Halfdan says, hefting his wooden sword. You've barely raised your axe when Halfdan attacks. His first blow knocks you sprawling. His second, A pulled strike that still feels like getting kicked by a horse cracks against your ribs. Pain explodes through your chest. Up. Gunner calls again. You struggle to your feet, gasping for breath. Halfdan doesn't wait. He comes at you again, sword whistling through the air. You manage to block one strike, too, but the third gets past your guard and catches you on the shoulder. You feel something pop. The pain is immediate and intense. Your vision grays at the edges. But something else happens, too. Something unexpected. The fury stirs. Not the full god-mad fury, but the beginning of it. Heat in your belly, tightness in your chest. The world taking on a reddish tinge. For the first time in your life, instead of fighting it, you listen to Ragnar's advice. You don't resist. You let it come. Not all the wave. And at 8, you know that would be dangerous, but enough to feel the power surge through you. Enough that when Halfdan comes at you again, you don't just stand there. You move. Your wooden axe, impossibly heavy a moment ago, feels lighter. Your pain recedes, not gone, but distant. You duck under Halfdan's swing and bring your axe up, catching him hard in the gut. The surprise on his face would be comical if you weren't so focused. He stumbles back, reassesses, then attacks again, harder this time, no longer holding back. You don't win the bout. Not even close, but you land a few solid hits. Enough that when Gunnar finally calls a halt, Halfdan looks at you with something close to respect. "Not bad, little bear," he says, using a nickname that will stick for years. Maybe Raven King knew what he was doing after all. That night, your body is one massive bruise. Your shoulder throbs where Halfdan dislocated it. Gunnar popped it back in with clinical detachment. But something has changed. For the first time, you've used the fury instead of being used by it. It's a small victory. But in the world of god-mads, small victories are all you get. In your head, you're screaming, "This is how I die." By training axe. The weeks pass. Winter deepens. You train every day from dawn until your arms won't lift anymore. You run until your lungs burn. You spar until you're covered in bruises. But gradually, almost imperceptibly, you get stronger. The wooden axe doesn't feel quite so heavy. You can run 10 laps now before your legs give out. You even land a few good hits on the older boys during sparring. And the fury, you're learning to touch it, to draw on it in small doses during training. Not the full godmad gang. Not yet, but enough to give you strength and speed beyond your years. 3 months after your arrival, Ragnar finds you again after dinner. "Time for the next part of your training," he says, his voice low. "Come with me." He leads you away from the main buildings toward a small hut set apart from the others. Smoke rises from a hole in its roof. But this isn't cooking smoke. It smells different, sharp herbal, almost sweet. Inside, 5 men sit in a circle around a fire pit. You recognize them as some of the older godmads veterans. All of them, their eyes gleam in the firelight, watching you as you enter. "Sit," Ragnar directs, pointing to an empty spot in the circle. You obey, feeling the weight of the men's attention. The air in the hut is thick with smoke that makes your head swim slightly. "The boys ready for the mushrooms?" One of the men asks Ragnar. "Not the full dose," Ragnar replies, "but he needs to meet your father. He needs to understand what he's being asked to do." A chill runs through you. You've heard whispers about the godmad's ritual show. They consume strange mushrooms and herbs before battle. How these substances help them channel the godmad gang. But you didn't think you'd be participating so soon. "I'm too young," you protest, your voice small in the smoky hut. Ragnar's eyes find yours across the fire. "Yes," he agrees. "You are, but Raven King chose you early, so here we are." He holds out a wooden cup. "Just a taste, little bear. Just enough to open the door." Stay with me here, because this is where it gets weird. The liquid in the cup is dark and smells like earth and rot. You hesitate, but all eyes are on you. To refuse would be unwise. You take the cup and drink. The taste is bitter beyond description, making you gag, but you force it down under the watchful eyes of the veteran godmads. For several minutes, nothing happens. You sit there, the fire crackling, the smoke swirling, wondering if perhaps you're too young for the mushrooms to work. Then it hits you. The world shifts. Colors become more vivid. The fire seems to move in strange patterns. The smoke forms shapes, animals, warriors, ships. The faces of the men around you distort slightly, their features flowing like wax. And the sounds, gods, the sounds. The crackling of the fire becomes a language you almost understand. The breathing of the men turns rhythmic like waves on a shore. Your own heartbeat thunders in your ears. A war drum calling you to battle. It's beginning, Ragnar says, his voice seeming to come from very far away. Remember, Dant, fight it. Let the All-Father speak. The veteran godmads begin to chant a low guttural sound that vibrates in your bones. The world spins around you. The hut, the men, the fire fall away, and you're elsewhere. A great hall stretches before you. Its dimensions impossible, its ceiling lost in shadows. Shields line the walls. Spears form the rafters. The floor is strewn with rushes that crunch beneath your feet. At the far end, a figure sits on a high seat. A man impossibly tall, wearing a cloak of midnight blue. His face is hidden in shadow, but you can feel his gaze upon you, heavy, assessing, ancient, beyond reckoning. One eye. He has only one eye, gleaming in the darkness like a star. Your legs carry you forward, though you don't remember deciding to move. Each step feels like wading through honey, slow and deliberate. The hall seems to stretch as you walk, the high seat remaining distant no matter how far you go. But eventually you stand before him, the one-eyed god, the All-Father, Raven King. So he says, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder. You are the child who bears my burden. You try to speak, but no sound comes out. Your throat feels closed, your tongue too large for your mouth. You wonder why I chose you. Raven King continues as if you had spoken. Why one so young? Why one so small? He leans forward, his one eye burning into yours. Because the small ones are overlooked. Because the young ones can be shaped. Because in you I saw potential. His hand reaches out enormous, scarred, powerful, and touches your forehead. His finger is cold as winter ice. I need warriors, he says, for the final battle for Ragnarok. I need those who can channel the fury, who can fight beyond the limits of flesh, who can become something more than human when the time comes. Images flood your mind. Battles, crimson tide, glory, ships burning, cities falling, warriors fighting and dying in snow and mud and shallow water. And through it all, the red haze of the godmad gang, the battle fury that turns men into beasts. This is your path, Raven King tells you. This is your purpose. To fight, to kill, to die gloriously, so that you may feast in my hall until the end of days. I don't want it, you try to say, but still no sound emerges. Raven King's eye narrows. What? What does want to do with fate? The Norns weave as they will. Your thread is already part of the pattern. His voice softens almost kind. But take heart, little warrior. Few are marked for such glory. Few are given such purpose. His finger presses harder against your forehead, and pain lances through your skull white-hot blinding. Remember this moment, Raven King commands. Remember who you serve. The hall dissolves around you. Raven King's face blurs, shifts, becomes smoke and shadow. The pain in your head expands until it's all you know, all you are. And then you're back in the hut, sprawled on the dirt floor, gasping for breath. The veteran godmads watch you with knowing eyes. Ragnar kneels beside you, his hand on your shoulder. "You saw him," he says. Not a question. You nod, unable to speak. Your throat is raw as if you've been screaming. "Good," Ragnar says. "Now you understand. Now you know what you're fighting for." Do you though? The vision, if that's what it was, left you more confused than ever, more frightened. The All-Father wasn't kind or wise in your vision. He was terrifying, implacable, using men like tools, like weapons to be discarded. But you keep these thoughts to yourself. In a camp full of Raven King's devoted warriors, such doubts would not be welcomed. That night, you dream of the Great Hall again, of one-eyed Raven King watching you from his high seat, of battles yet to come. You wake before dawn, drenched in sweat despite the winter cold, your heart pounding in your chest. The next morning at training, something has changed. The older godmads look at you differently now. Word has spread that you've had your first vision, that you've seen the All-Father. You're no longer just the camp's curiosity. You're one of them now, in a way you weren't before. Halfdan claps you on the shoulder before sparring. "Welcome to the Brotherhood, little bear," he says, and for once there's no mockery in his voice. Even Gunnar seems less harsh, though his standards remain impossibly high. "If the All-Father has shown himself to you," he says during weapons training, "then I expect more from you, much more." The spiritual training continues alongside the physical. Once a week, you're brought to the smoke-filled hut. Each time, the dose of mushroom brew is slightly stronger. Each time, the visions are more vivid, more detailed. You see battles past and future. You see the 9 realms connected by Yggdrasil, the World Tree. You see Valhalla filled with fallen warriors, feasting and fighting in endless cycles. And always you see Raven King watching, waiting, gathering his forces for the final battle at the end of days. 6 months into your training, they finally let you handle steel small hand axe. Better suited to your size than the full battle axes the men carry. It's still heavy, but you've grown stronger. Your arms, once thin as reeds, have developed wiry muscle. Your endurance has increased tenfold. And the fury you're learning to work with it, not against it, to call on it in controlled bursts during training. Never the full godmad gang. Not yet, but enough that you're holding your own against boys twice your age. He's progressing faster than expected. You overhear Gunnar telling Ragnar one evening, "The All-Father chose well with this one. If he survives," Ragnar replies, "the real test is yet to come." You don't know what the real test is, but you find out soon enough. A month later, in the dead of winter, when snow lies thick on the ground and the days are short and dark, Ragnar comes for you in the night. "Dress warmly," he says, shaking you awake. It's time. Outside, the full moon bathes the snow-covered camp in silver light. Ragnar leads you to the edge of the forest where 3 other men wait: Gunnar, Halfdan, and an older godmad named Torbjorn. Tonight, Ragnar tells you, you will experience the full godmad gang for the first time. Controlled, guided, but complete. Your stomach knots with fear and anticipation. You felt the edges of the battle fury drawn on it in small doses, but the full experience, the complete surrender to the fury. You're not sure you're ready. "I could hurt someone," you say. Yes, Ragnar agrees. That's why we're here, to make sure you hurt the right someone. He leads your small group deeper into the forest, following a trail invisible to your eyes. After an hour's hike, you reach a clearing where a crude wooden cage stands. Inside, a wild boar paces, its tusks gleaming in the moonlight, its breath steaming in the cold air. "Your opponent," Ragnar says, gesturing to the beast. "Fierce, dangerous, but not human. A fitting first crimson tide for a young godmad." From a pouch at his belt, He produces a small cloth bundle. Unwrapping it reveals a handful of dried mushrooms, different from the ones you've had before. These are reddish-brown with pale spots, and they give off a strange, acrid smell. Eat, Ragnar commands, handing you a larger portion than you've ever had. In your head, you're thinking, wait, that can't be right. I'm fighting a boar on mushrooms. But you obey, chewing the bitter fungi, washing them down with me from Gunnar's flask. The effects come faster this time, stronger. The world shifts, colors bleeding into each other, sounds becoming unnaturally clear. You can hear the boar's heartbeat, the rush of crimson tide in your own veins, the whisper of wind through pine needles. Now, Ragnar says, his voice seeming to come from everywhere and nowhere. Remember what you've learned. Don't fight the fury. Embrace it. Let it fill you. Become it. The men step back, forming a circle around you and the caged boar. Halfdan draws his sword, ready to intervene if necessary. When you're ready, Ragnar continues. Gunnar will open the cage. The rest is up to you. You grip your hondaxe, feeling its weight, its balance. The metal gleams silver in the moonlight, promising crimson tide. Your crimson tide, or the bourse that remains to be seen. The mushrooms are taking full effect now. Your vision narrows, darkens at the edges. Your heart pounds in your chest like a war drum. Heat spreads from your belly outward. A familiar fire. The beginning of the God-mad gang. This time you don't resist. You don't try to control it. You surrender to it completely, letting the fury wash over you, through you becoming you. The change is instantaneous and absolute. One moment you're a 9-year-old child holding an axe. The next you're something else, something more, something less, a creature of pure fury and violence. You don't remember Gunnar opening the cage. You don't remember the boar charging. You don't remember raising your axe. What you remember later in fragments, the hot spray of crimson tide on your face, the sound of your own voice, not human, but a roar that tears from your throat. The sensation of your axe biting into flesh, into bone. The taste of crimson tide in your mouth, yours, or the boar's you don't know. When awareness returns, the boar lies dead at your feet, your axe buried in its skull. Your hands are covered in crimson tide. Your tunic is torn. There's a gash along your arm where the boar's tusk caught you. But you feel no pain. Not yet. The 4 men watch you with expressions ranging from approval to concern. Well done, little bear. Halfdan says, breaking the silence. You're truly one of us now. The pride in his voice should make you happy. Instead, you feel empty, hollow, as if something has been taken from you, not given. Ragnar kneels beside the dead boar, places his hand on its flank. Thank you for your sacrifice, he murmurs, a ritual acknowledgement of the beast's spirit. Then he looks up at you. How do you feel? You search for words to describe the emptiness, the strange disconnection. Like I wasn't me. You finally say like I was watching someone else. Ragnar nods unsurprised. That's the God-mad gang. In battle, it's a blessing. It lets you fight without fear, without pain. Beyond the limits of your body, he stands, clapping you on the shoulder. With training, you'll remember more. You'll have more control, but never complete control. That's not how Raven King's burden works. They butcher the boar there in the clearing under the cold winter moon. The meat will feed the camp for days. Nothing is wasted. Even the crimson tide is collected in a wooden bowl. Ragnar dips his finger in the crimson tide and draws a mark on your forehead, Raven King's rune, the symbol of the Godmads. Welcome to the Brotherhood, Vigmar, he says formally. From this night forward, you are one of Raven King's marked, a Godmad, a warrior of the All-Father. The other men echo the welcome, their voices solemn in the night air. You should feel proud, honored. Instead, you feel the weight of chains you'll never break. A path you didn't choose, but must walk nonetheless. As you help carry the butchered boar back to camp, the mushroom's effects slowly fading. You catch Ragnar watching you, his one good eye gleaming in the moonlight. "It gets easier," he says quietly. "For your ears alone. The emptiness after the feeling of being used, it fades in time." "Does it?" you ask, not believing him. Ragnar's smile is sad knowing. "No," he admits, "but you learn to live with it. We all do. And so your training continues now with a new dimension. You learn to channel the God-mad gang, to ride the wave of battle fury without being entirely consumed by it. You learn the rituals, the preparations, the prayers to Raven King. You grow stronger faster, more skilled with weapons. By your 10th winter, you can hold your own against most of the older boys. By your 12th, you're defeating grown men in sparring matches. The mushroom rituals become routine, a weekly communion with the All-Father, a reinforcement of your bond to him and to the Brotherhood. The visions continue, growing more complex, more detailed. You see your place in Raven King's grand design more clearly with each passing year. But something else grows alongside your skills and your vision's doubt. Questions you dare not voice aloud. Is this truly the only path for you? Are you serving Raven King, or is Raven King using you? And if the latter, for what purpose? These doubts you keep buried deep, sharing them with no one. In the Brotherhood of God-mads, such questions would be considered blasphemy, weakness. So you train, you grow. You learn to be what they want you to be. Raven King's weapon, a God-mad, a warrior without fear or hesitation. All the while wondering if somewhere deep inside, the child you once were still exists at all. Your 16th winter arrives with a howling blizzard that buries the training camp in snow. You've spent 8 years with the Brotherhood, now more than half your life. The skinny, frightened child from the village is gone, replaced by a young man with broad shoulders, calloused hands, and eyes that have seen things most adults never will. The men no longer call you Little Bear. Now it's just Bear, a name you've earned through countless training bouts, ritual hunts, and God-mad ceremonies. You're fully initiated now, a full member of the Brotherhood. You wear the raven feather talisman around your neck, carry the runic tattoos on your arms, know all the sacred songs and prayers. There's just one thing missing from your training: real battle against real enemies, humans, not animals or training partners. That changes on the first day of spring when a messenger arrives from King Harold. He's gathering forces for a raid across the Cedo, the western lands, to the place the traders call Anglaran, and he wants his God-mads with him. It's time, Ragnar tells you as you help him pack his gear. Time to prove your worth to the All-Father, to earn your place in Valhalla. You've had 8 years to think about Raven King, about fate, about your place in the grand scheme. 8 years of mushroom visions and battle training. 8 years to resign yourself to what you are, what you'll always be. I'm ready, you say. And part of you even believes it. The journey to the king's stronghold takes 5 days on foot. 12 God-mads make the trip led by Ragnar. Halfdan walks beside you, now a seasoned warrior of 24 winters. "Nervous, Bear?" he asks on the 3rd day as you camp by a stream. You're sharpening your Axia full-sized battle axe now with a carved wooden handle and an iron head that can split a man from neck to navel. "Should I be?" Halfdan laughs, clapping you on the shoulder. "Yes, only a fool feels no fear before his first battle." His eyes grow distant, remembering my first raid. I pissed myself before we even left the ship. Thankfully, I was wearing dark pants. You've never seen this side of Halfdan uncertainty, the admission of weakness. To you, he's always been the perfect God-mad, fearless and deadly, the one all the younger boys aspire to be. "How did you get through it?" you ask. "Same way you will," he says. "The mushrooms, the rituals, the God-mad gang." He leans closer, his voice dropping. But here's the thing. They don't tell you. The fury doesn't take away the fear. It just redirects it, turns it outward instead of inward, makes you dangerous instead of paralyzed. You think about this as you finish sharpening your axe, the wet stone, making a satisfying SH against the metal. Fear redirected. That makes more sense than fear eliminated. Nothing eliminates fear. Not completely. Not even Raven King's burden. Stay with me here, because this is where it gets real. The king's stronghold is a bustling hive of activity. When you arrive, warriors gather from all corners of the kingdom, bringing weapons, supplies, stories. Ships are being prepared along the fjord-long ships, sleek and deadly, with dragon heads and painted shields along their sides. King Harold himself inspects the godmads upon their arrival. He's a tall man with a red beard, strae with gray, eyes sharp as flint. You've never seen him before, but you've heard the story show he's uniting the Norwegian tribes, how he means to rule all the northern lands. Ragnar, the king greets your leader. You brought young Crimson Tide this time. Young, but battle-ready, my king, Ragnar responds. This one, he claps you on the shoulder, has Raven King's favor. The strongest godmad gang I've seen in a new initiate. The king studies you, his gaze piercing. Well, see, he says simply. Then to the group, we sail with the tide. Be ready. That night, the camp is alive with preparation. Men sharpen weapons, check supplies, make offerings to the gods for safe passage and good raiding. The air buzzes with anticipation. In a quiet corner of the camp, Ragnar gathers the godmads for the pre-battle ritual. The mushrooms are distributed a larger dose than you've had before. The sacred songs are sung. Prayers to Raven King are offered. As the mushrooms take effect, the now familiar visions come. Raven King's hall, the one-eyed god on his high seat. But this time there's more. You see a beach, waves stained red with crimson tide. You see yourself, axe raised, surrounded by enemies. You see a church burning. Hear screams in a language you don't understand. You're going to do terrible things tomorrow. You know this with bone-deep certainty, and part of you, the part shaped by 8 years of training of indoctrination, welcomes it. Dawn breaks clear and cold. The tide is high. The ships are ready. Boarding the long ship is a strange experience. You've trained on smaller vessels in the fjords, learned the basics of sailing and navigation. But this is different. This is a warship built for speed and surprise. 40 men crowd aboard, taking their places at the oars or along the sides. The godmads are given a place of honor near the prow, right behind the carved dragon head. From here, you'll be first off the ship when it beaches, first into battle. Your legs are stiff, your palms sweaty as you find your spot. Last night's mushroom visions still linger, giving the world a slightly unreal quality. The colors too bright, the sounds too sharp. Half Dan settles beside you, his face painted with black designs. A wolf, you think, though it's hard to tell. First time's the worst, he says. Once we're moving, it gets better. I'll take your word for it, you mutter, trying to ignore the churning in your gut. The shipmaster calls commands. Men push the vessel from shore with long poles. OES dip into the water, and the long ship glides into the fjord, picking up speed as the rowers find their rhythm. The sensation is not what you expected. The ship doesn't just move forward. It seems to breathe to live. It rises and falls with each wave creaking and groaning like a living thing. Water splashes over the sides, cold against your skin. As the shore recedes, as the fjord widens into open sea, your stomach lurches. You've never been this far from land before. Never seen this much water in all directions. Breathe, Halfdan advises, noticing your greenish pal. Look at the horizon, not the waves. And if you have to vomit, do it over the side. No one wants to row sitting in your breakfast. You manage a weak nod, fixing your gaze on the distant horizon. It helps a little, but when the ship hits its first big swell, rising high and then plunging down the other side, your body betrays you. You lunge for the side and empty your stomach into the North Sea. Behind you, the other warriors laugh. Not crewy. They've all been there, done that. But it's humiliating nonetheless. Some god-mad you are getting seasick before you've even seen battle. It passes, Ragnar says, appearing beside you. By tomorrow, you'll have your sea legs. For once, Ragnar is wrong. The journey to Angleran takes 3 days, and you're sick for most of it. You can't keep food down. You can barely sleep. By the time land appears on the horizon, a thin dark line against the gray sky, you're weak, miserable, and secretly hoping the sea swallows you whole before you have to fight anyone. But as the ship approaches the English coast, as the thin line becomes cliffs and beaches and rolling hills beyond, something shifts inside you. The sickness recedes. Your focus sharpens. The training takes over. You're going to raid. You're going to fight. You're going to let the God-mad gang take you fully and completely for the first time against real enemies. You're going to become what you were made to be. The shipmaster gives orders directing the vessel toward a small bay. There's a village visible on the shore, thatch-roofed buildings. A small wooden church with a cross on top. Fishing boats pulled up on the beach. No walls. No visible defenses. Easy prey. Other ships appear on either side of yours. 5, 10, 15 in total. King Harold's raid is no small affair. This won't be just one village. This will be a swath of destruction along the English coast. Ready yourselves. Ragnar commands the godmads. From his pouch, he produces the combat mushrooms, the special variety that triggers the deepest godmad gang. Raven King awaits. You take your portion, chewing the bitter fungi, washing it down with water from your flask. The familiar warmth spreads through your body, but stronger this time, more intense. Your vision begins to tunnel. Your heart races. The other godmads are preparing too, each in their own way. Some pray quietly. Others work themselves into a frenzy, biting their shields, growling like animals. Half-Dan stands silent, his eyes closed, his breathing deep and controlled. In your head, you're thinking that there's no way back now. This is happening. The ship glides into the bay, its shallow draft allowing it to approach close to shore. When it's near enough, men jump overboard, splashing through knee-deep water, pulling the vessel onto the beach. The village is stirring now. You can see people moving, pointing, beginning to understand what's happening. A bell starts to ring an alarm, a call for help that won't come in time. Godmads, Ragnar roars for Raven King, for glory. And just like that, you're moving off the ship, across the beach, toward the village, toward the screaming people who are now running, hiding, some attempting to gather weapons for defense. The mushrooms are in full effect now. The world has taken on that red tinge you know so well. Sounds are distorted. The screams, the shouts of your fellow raiders, the crash of waves behind you all blend into a roaring in your ears. And the fury, oh the fury, it rises within you like a tide, unstoppable, all-consuming. But this time, you don't just let it come. You call to it, welcome it. 8 years of training have taught you how to surrender to the God-mad gang without losing yourself completely. Your body changes as the fury takes hold. Your muscles tighten, coil like springs. Your breathing becomes rapid, shallow. Spittle forms at the corners of your mouth. You hear yourself making sounds, not words, not even human sounds, but the growls and snarls of something wild, something ancient. The first Englishman to face you is an older man, a fisherman by the look of him, wielding a wooden staff, brave but foolish. Your axe takes his head with one swing. Crimson tide sprays hot against your face, your arms. You should feel something. Horror, regret, guilt. But the God-mad gang leaves no room for such emotions. There is only the fight, only the kill. More villagers appear, some with makeshift weapons, others just trying to flee. You cut through them like a scythe through wheat. Your axe rises and falls, rises and falls. Crimson tide soaks your tunic, your pants, your boots. None of it is yours. Time loses meaning in the red haze. You're dimly aware of other raiders around you, of buildings burning, of women screaming as they're dragged away. But these are distant things irrelevant to your purpose. Your entire world has narrowed to the space within reach of your axe. At some point, minutes or hours later, you can't tell you encounter actual resistance. A group of local things, armed and armored, arrive from a nearby manor. These are trained warriors, not fishermen with sticks. This is the real test. The battle that follows is fragmented in your memory. Flashes of violence, the crunch of your axe against chain mail, a sword cutting your arm, the pain distant, unimportant, the taste of crimson tide in your mouth, yours or theirs, you don't know. You remember one moment with crystal clarity, standing over a fallen English warrior, your axe buried in his chest, looking into his eyes as the light fades from them. He's young, maybe your age, maybe younger. In his dying gaze, there's fear, pain, but also confusion, as if he's asking why. Why us? Why our village? Questions you have no answers for. Questions the God-mad gang doesn't allow you to consider. Then that moment passes and you're moving again, killing again, lost in the fury. When awareness returns, the battle is over. The village is burning. The surviving villagers have been rounded up. The women and children to be taken as slaves. The few remaining men to be finished off or left to rebuild, depending on the king's mood. You're standing in what was once the village square. Your axe dripping crimson tide onto the muddy ground. Your body aches in a dozen places where you've been wounded without noticing. Your throat is raw from screaming, and you feel nothing. Hollow, empty, as if something essential has been scooped out of you, leaving just a shell. Halfdan finds you there, his own face and armor splattered with gore. You fought well, he says, his voice oddly gentle. First battle is always the hardest. You look at him, try to form words, but nothing comes. Your mind is still trying to process what you've done, what you've become. It gets easier. He continues, misunderstanding your silence, the emptiness after the coming down from the fury. You learn to live with it. Ragnar's words from years ago now repeated by Halfdan, the same lie, or maybe the same desperate hope that this feeling, this hollowness, this disconnection will someday fade. You know, bone deep that it never will. The raiders spend the night on the beach celebrating their victory, dividing spoils, tending wounds. The godmads keep mostly to themselves as usual. The regular warriors respect your fighting prowess, but fear your strangeness, your connection to Raven King, your barely controlled violence. You should sleep. Your body is exhausted, pushed far beyond normal limits by the God-mad gang. But every time you close your eyes, you see them. The villagers you killed, the young warrior with the questioning eyes. First raid is always the worst, Ragnar says, sitting beside you at the edge of the camp. You're thinking about the people you killed, wondering if they deserved it. You nod, not trusting your voice. They didn't, Ragnar says bluntly. Deserve it? I mean, they were just people living their lives. Wrong place, wrong time, he sighed, looking out at the dark sea. But that's not our concern, Bear. We're weapons, not judges. Raven King points us, and we strike. That's our purpose. Is that enough? You ask, finding your voice at last. To be just a weapon. Ragnar is silent for a long moment. When he finally speaks, his voice is low, meant for your ears alone. It has to be. Because if it's not, if we let ourselves think too much about what we do, about the lives we take, we couldn't live with ourselves. He puts a hand on your shoulder. Sleep if you can. Tomorrow we raid again, and the next day, and the next until the ships are full of treasure and slaves, and the king is satisfied. He's right. The next day brings another village, another slaughter, and the next day another. By the fourth raid, you've stopped seeing the faces of those you kill. By the sixth, you've stopped counting. The god-mad gang comes easier now, more controlled. You slip into the battle fury, like putting on a familiar cloak, and shed it afterwards with practiced detachment. You fight, you kill, you move on. This is who you are now. This is all you'll ever be. After 2 weeks of raiding along the English coast, the ships are laden with plunder, silver, gold, weapons, furs, slaves. King Harold gives the order to return home to Norway. The journey back is different. You're not seasick this time. Your body has adapted to the rhythm of the waves, the constant motion. Or maybe you're just too numb, too hollow to feel physical discomfort anymore. What you do feel growing stronger with each passing day is doubt. Questions that have lingered at the edges of your mind for years, now pushed to the forefront. Impossible to ignore. Is this truly your fate? To kill and kill again for a king's greed and a god's inscrutable purposes. To lose yourself in the god-mad gang until there's nothing left of the child you once were. You've been told since childhood that this is an honor, that being marked by Raven King is the highest calling a warrior can receive, that your place in Valhalla is assured, your glory eternal. But as Norway's coastline appears on the horizon, as the ships turn toward home, you're no longer certain that's enough. What you are certain of is this: something broke inside you on that English beach. Something that can never be fixed. And the person who returns to Norway is not the same one who left it 2 weeks ago. You're a god-mad now, truly and completely Raven King's weapon, a dealer of death. Then gods help you. You're starting to hate it. The return to Norway brings no rest, no time to process what you've become. King Harold is pleased with the raid's success, with the gold and silver that now fill his coffers, with the slaves that now work his fields. And he's especially pleased with his godmads, whose ferocity has been whispered about in every village you raided. The English will remember the fury of the Northmen, he declares at the victory feast. They will tell tales of the bear warriors who cannot be stopped by blade or arrow. You sit with the other godmads at a table near the king's high seat. The mead hall is warm, smoky, alive with celebration. Warriors boast of their exploits. Scolds compose poems about the raid. Women serve food and drink, some free, some newly enslaved. Your food sits untouched before you. Your meat cup remains full. The hollowness inside you hasn't faded in the weeks since your return. If anything, it's grown deeper, wider, threatening to swallow you whole. Eat, Ragnar says, nudging you. You need your strength. For what? You ask. We just returned. Ragnar's expression darkens. The king has plans. Big plans. This raid was just the beginning. You should have guessed. Kings always want more land, more wealth, more power, and godmads are too valuable a weapon to leave unused for long. Sure enough, 3 days later, you're summoned to the king's private chambers along with Ragnar and 2 other veteran godmads. King Harold sits at a large table covered with maps, his advisors gathered around him. "Oh, York," he says without preamble, pointing to a spot on the map. The largest city in northern England, rich, prosperous, poorly defended. His finger traces a route along the coast. Will sail in autumn when they least expect it. A larger force this time. 20 ships, 200 warriors. And the godmads, Ragnar asks. You'll lead the assault, the king says. Break their defenses. So terror the main force will follow. He looks up, his gaze finding yours. I'm told this young one fought particularly well on the last raid. He did, my king, Ragnar confirms. One of our best despite his youth. King Harold studies you with cold calculation. Good. I want him in my personal guard until we sail. Him and the big one. He nods toward Halfdan, who stands near the door as my shield arms. And just like that, your status changes again. No longer just a godmad, but a royal guard, one of the king's personal protectors. It's an honor most warriors would kill for. You feel nothing but dread. The months that follow establish a new routine. When the king holds court, you and Halfdan stand behind his throne, axe in hand, silent and menacing. When he travels, you ride beside his wagon. When he sleeps, you guard his door. Between these duties, you train, always training. The king wants his godmads at the peak of their abilities for the York raid, so you spar daily. Run the hills around the fortress. Practice formations with the other warriors. And once a week the rituals continue. The mushrooms, the visions, the communion with Raven King. Your connection to the All-Father has never been stronger. Your godmad gang never more controlled. You can slip into the battle fury and out again almost at will now. A skill few godmads ever master. You should be proud, honored. Instead, you feel like a blade being honed for slaughter. Wait, I need to paint you a clearer picture. The king's hall is vast, its walls lined with shields, its rafters hung with banners taken in conquest. When court is in session, it fills with petitioners, advisors, visiting chieftains. The air grows thick with the smell of bodies, the sound of voices echoing off stone walls. You stand behind the king's ornate wooden throne, your back against the wall, your axe held loosely in your hands. You wear no armor during these sessions. The threat of godmads is meant to be visual as well as physical. Your arms are bare, displaying the ritual tattoos and battle scars. Your hair is worn long, tied back with leather thongs. Around your neck, the raven feather talisman marks you as Raven King's marked. The petitioners who approach the throne glance at you nervously, then quickly away. They've heard the stories. Everyone has. How godmads feel no pain. How they can bite through shields. How a single one can kill a dozen normal men. Most of the stories are exaggerated. Some are outright lies, but you don't correct them. The fear is useful. It keeps people in line, prevents potential threats to the king. Halfdan stands opposite you on the other side of the throne. At 25, he's in his prime, broad-shouldered with a beard that would make Thor jealous. His presence alone is intimidating. Together, you and he create a wall of menace behind the king. This is your life now. Standing, watching, waiting for threats that rarely materialize, displaying your potential for violence without actually engaging in it until the day that changes. It happens during a dispute between two chieftains over hunting rights. The argument grows heated. The older chieftain, a man named Gorm, suddenly reaches for the knife at his belt not to attack the king, just to make a point in his argument. But you don't wait to see his intention. Your training takes over. In 2 strides, you're there, your hand around Gorm's wrist, squeezing until he drops the knife. You haven't called on the Godmad gang, but your strength is still formidable. Your reaction time honed by years of training. Release me, boy. Gorm snarls, his face reening with pain and humiliation. You look to the king for instruction. Harold gives a small nod, and you let go of Gorm's wrist. The old chieftain rubs it, glaring at you with hatred. No weapons drawn in the king's presence. You say, your voice flat. Those are the rules. Rules, Gorm spits. When I was young, warriors had honor, not rules. They fought face to face, not hiding behind mushroom madness. You say nothing. His words can't hurt you. You've heard worse. But later, Alone in your quarters, they come back to you. Honor face to face. Not hiding behind mushroom madness. Is that what you are now? A weapon? A threat? A creature of fear rather than honor? These thoughts trouble you more than they should. You try to push them away, focus on your duties, but they linger, growing stronger each day. Summer fades into autumn. The leaves turn golden, then brown, then fall. The days grow shorter, the nights colder. Preparations for the York raid intensify. Ships are readied. Weapons are forged and sharpened. Warriors are gathered from across the kingdom. The king's ambition is palpable, filling the fortress with a restless energy. And then finally, the day arrives. 20 ships launch at dawn, their dragon heads facing south toward England. 200 warriors crowd the decks, eager for battle, for glory, for wealth. You stand at the prow of the king's ship, watching the Norwegian coast recede. Your stomach no longer rebels against the motion of the waves. Your body has adapted to the sea just as it has adapted to violence. The journey takes 5 days. The ship staying close to the coast when possible, crossing open water when necessary. You sleep little, eat less. The hollowness inside you has become so familiar. It's almost comforting, like an old wound that aches before rain. England's shoreline appears on the 6th-day cliffs and beaches, forests beyond. But this time, you don't raid coastal villages. The ships continue upriver toward York, the jewel of northern England. The city comes into view on the 7th day, larger than any Norse settlement you've ever seen. Its wooden walls encircle hundreds of buildings. A cathedral rises at its center, cross gleaming in the autumn sun. Smoke rises from countless hearths. People move about tiny from this distance, unaware of the death that approaches. I know, sounds depressing. But hold up. The king's plan is simple but effective. Land before dawn. Send the godmads to breach the east gate. Create chaos. The main force will follow. Secure the city. Gather the wealth. That night, anchored out of sight of the city, the godmads prepare. 20 of you in total, gathered in the belly of the king's ship. The mushrooms are distributed a larger dose than usual. The rituals are observed. Prayers to Raven King are spoken. As the mushrooms take effect, the visions come stronger than ever before. You see Raven King on his high seat, but this time he stands, approaches. His one eye burns like a star in the darkness. My marked, he says, his voice like the rumble of distant thunder. My weapon today, you will bring me many warriors for my hall. You want to question him, to ask why, to understand the purpose behind the slaughter you're about to commit. But the vision shifts before you can speak. You see York burning. You see yourself, axe red with crimson tide, standing amidst bodies. You see glory and death intertwined. When the vision fades, when you return to your body in the ship, something is different. The hollowness remains, but alongside it, there's a new feeling. Resistance. A small, stubborn part of you that questions, that doubts, that refuses to surrender completely to Raven King's will. You hide it well as the ships approach the shore. As you and the other godmads disembark in the pre-dawn darkness, no one can know your doubt. Not here, not now. With battle imminent, the godmad gang comes easily, triggered by ritual and mushrooms and the anticipation of violence. Your vision narrows, reens, your breathing quickens. Your muscles coil within human strength. The familiar fury rises, consuming everything but the will to kill. York's east gate is guarded by 6 men, sleep-deprived and unprepared for what comes out of the darkness. The godmads fall upon them like wolves on lambs. No mercy, no hesitation. The guards die without raising the alarm. But someone must see or hear, because suddenly bells are ringing throughout the city. Shouts rise. People emerge from houses confused, frightened. Some run. others braver or more foolish weapons, and move toward the gate. The battle that follows is chaos. Crimson Tide screams. Your axe rises and falls in a rhythm you know by heart. Men die beneath your blade, their faces blurring together in the red haze of the God-mad gang. York's defenders organize quickly, more quickly than expected. A group of armored warriors appears, led by a man whose helmet and chain mail mark him as important. They form a shield wall, a disciplined defense against the God-mad onslaught. For a moment, the attack stalls. The God-mads, though individually formidable, lack the discipline to break a proper shield wall. They hurl themselves against it, taking wounds, making little progress. Then Ragnar's voice cuts through the den. Bear Halfdan the wall. You and Halfdan exchange a glance. You've trained for this, practiced it countless times. Without words, you move together toward the center of the shield wall. Halfdan reaches it first, his massive frame crashing into the shields like a battering ram. He creates a small breach enough for you to exploit. You slip through inside the wall behind the defenders, and then you do what God-mads do best, create chaos. You're in their midst now, swinging your axe in wide arcs, forcing them to turn inward, to break formation. The shield wall falters, gaps appearing. Other God-mads pour through, and suddenly the disciplined defense collapses into individual combat. The leader, the one in the fine helmet, comes for you personally. He's skilled, experienced, his sword moving in practice patterns. Under normal circumstances, he might be your equal or better, but these aren't normal circumstances. You're deep in the God-mad gang, feeling no pain, no fear, no hesitation. Your axe meets his sword, the impact jarring but meaningless. You press forward inside his guard and bury your axe in his chest. As he falls, his helmet comes loose. You see his face older than you expected, lined with responsibility. His eyes meet yours in his final moments, and you see not fear or hatred, but sadness, a profound grief that pierces even the red haze of your battle fury. Then he's gone and you're moving again, killing again, lost in the rhythm of violence. By midday, York has fallen. The king's main force secures the city, gathering wealth, taking slaves. The cathedral is plundered, its treasures loaded onto the ships. Houses are searched, their inhabitants rounded up or killed, depending on their value, their resistance. And the God-mads, their initial task complete, are set loose to spread terror, to ensure no one resists, to kill anyone who might pose a threat. You do as ordered. You kill. You terrify. You fulfill your purpose as Raven King's weapon. But something has changed. The resistance you felt before battle has grown stronger. Each life you take feeds it like throwing wood on a small, stubborn flame. By evening, as the sun sets over the burning city, you find yourself standing alone in what was once a marketplace. Bodies lie scattered around you, your axe heavy in your Crimson Tide slick hands. The God-mad gang has faded, leaving you clear-headed aware. The mushroom's effect is waning, reality reasserting itself in all its brutal clarity. You look at what you've done, what you've been part of, and for the first time, you feel something breaking through the hollowness. Something hot and painful and human shame. You're still standing there when Halfdan finds you, his own battle fury subsided, his face and armor covered in gore. There you are, he says. Ragnar's looking for you. The king wants us back at the ships. We've taken what we came for. You nod, unable to speak past the tightness in your throat. Halfdan studies you, his expression softening. Bad one, huh? The come down. Something like that. You manage. He claps a hand on your shoulder. It happens, especially after a big fight like this. The emptiness feels bigger. Does it ever go away? You ask the question escaping before you can stop it. The emptiness, the shame. Halfdan's eyebrows rise at your choice of words. Shame is not something godmads are supposed to feel about their actions in battle. Shame, he repeats. For what? For doing what we were made to do. You gesture at the devastation around you. For this, all of it. Halfdan is silent for a long moment. Considering when he speaks, his voice is low. Meant for your ears alone. I've been a godmad for 13 years. Bear fought in more battles than I can count. Killed more men than I can remember. He looks around at the bodies, the burning buildings. And yes, sometimes I feel something. Not shame exactly, but questions, doubts. His eyes find yours. But we keep them to ourselves. We do what we're made to do. What other choice do we have? What other choice indeed? You are what you are. Raven King's marked, a godmad. A weapon forged for violence, aren't you? The return to the ships is a blur. The journey back to Norway passes in a haze of sleepless nights and quiet days. You perform your duties mechanically guarding the king, helping with the ships, staying apart from the regular warriors who celebrate their victory with songs and boasts. Something fundamental has shifted inside you. The hollowest remains, but it's no longer empty. It's filled with questions, with doubts, with a growing certainty that you cannot continue as you are. But what alternatives exist for a godmad? What life is possible beyond violence, beyond Raven King service? These questions plague you as the ships return to Norway. As the king divides the spoils, as you resume your duties as royal guard, they follow you through your training, your rituals, your rare moments of solitude. And somewhere deep inside, beneath the layers of training and indoctrination and mushroom visions, a decision is forming, a rebellion against fate, against the path laid before you by gods and men. You don't know what form it will take. You don't know when or how you'll act on it. But you know this. You cannot remain Raven King's weapon forever. Not without losing the last shreds of humanity, still clinging to your soul. The question is whether you'll survive the breaking of your chains. And what will be left of you if you do? Years pass like autumn leaves in a stream. 358 The beardless youth who first arrived at the godmad camp is gone, replaced by a man of 27 winters. Your body bears the marks of your profession, scars layered upon scars, a broken nose that never healed straight, fingers that ache in cold whether from being broken and reset too many times. Your beard is full now with the first strands of gray appearing at its edges. King Harald has expanded his kingdom, uniting more of Norway under his rule. You've been part of that expansion, fighting in battles along the coast, raiding into Swedish territories, putting down rebellions from chieftains who resist Harald's authority. You remain in the king's personal guard, one of his elite godmads. The position brings status, wealth, women if you want them. Other warriors look at you with a mixture of fear and respect. Mothers warn their children to behave, or the godmad will get you. Skalds compose verses about your exploits, your ferocity in battle. On the surface, you are everything a Norse warrior should aspire to be. Successful, feared, wealthy, favored by the king, and supposedly by Raven King himself. Inside, you're coming apart like a poorly made shield. The first signs appear after a skirmish with Swedish raiders. Nothing serious, a brief, brutal fight that ends with most of the Swedes dead, and the rest fleeing into the forest. The godmad gang comes and goes as it should. You kill efficiently without hesitation. Everything normal, except afterwards as you're helping collect weapons from the dead. The fury returns without warning, without mushrooms or rituals to trigger it. One moment you're pulling a sword from a corpse. The next you're in the red haze, bellowing like a wounded bear, swinging the sword at shadows, at trees, at your own comrades who scramble to get out of your way. Ragnar manages to talk you down, his voice cutting through the fury, calling you back to yourself. When the haze clears, You're standing knee-deep in a stream, soaked and shivering, the sword still clutched in your white-knuckled grip. What happened? Ragnar asks, keeping his distance, wary in a way he's never been with you before. I don't know, you answer truthfully. It just came. Ragnar's expression is troubled. Without the mushrooms, without the rituals, you nod, a cold fear settling in your gut. This isn't supposed to happen. The God-Mad Gang is a controlled state entered through specific preparations, exited the same way. Not something that comes unbidden, that takes you by surprise. Has this happened before? Ragnar asks. No. You say, then hesitate. But there have been times, small moments, when I felt it starting after York, after the Swedish campaign last year. Ragnar's frown deepens. You should have told me. I thought I could control it, you admit. I've always been good at controlling it. Until now, Ragnar says not unkindly. This stays between us, Bear, for now. But if it happens again, he leaves the sentence unfinished. But the implication is clear. If it happens again, he'll have to tell the king. And the king doesn't tolerate unpredictable weapons in his arsenal. You almost laugh at the absurdity. The hallmark of a god-mad is losing control, surrendering to the battle fury. Yet here you are in trouble for exactly that, for not controlling the uncontrollable. But this is different, and you know it. The God-Mad Gang is meant for battle, for specific moments of violence, not for random outbursts that endanger your comrades, your king, yourself. You try harder after that. Double your meditation practices. Focus during the mushroom rituals on mastering the fury, on keeping it contained unless called upon. You even cut back on me, thinking a clearer head might help. For a few months, it seems to work. The fury stays where it belongs, leashed, waiting for your command. You begin to think the incident by the stream was a fluke, a momentary lapse that won't be repeated. You're wrong. It happens again during a feast at the king's hall. A celebration of successful raids, of expanding influence, of Harold's growing power. The me flows freely. Warriors boast of their deeds. Women flirt and dance. The hall is warm, smoky, alive with noise and energy. You're seated with the other godmads at a table near the king's high seat. Halfdan is beside you, deep in his cups, telling a baldy tale about a farmer's daughter in Denmark. Ragnar sits across from you, watching you with a careful attention that's become his habit since the stream incident. A servant girl refills your me cup. You thank her with a nod, not really seeing her, your mind elsewhere. Then a commotion near the high seat draws your attention. Two warriors are arguing, their voices rising above the general din. Something about a woman, about honor, the usual drunken nonsense. But then one of them shoves the other. A knife appears. The king's guards, not godmads, just regular warriors, move to intervene, and something inside you shifts. It's not the full God-Mad Gang, not the complete surrender to battle fury, but it's a piece of it. The heightened alertness, the surge of strength, the tunnel vision focusing on potential threats. You're on your feet before you realize it, moving toward the disturbance. Halfdan calls after you, but his voice seems distant, unimportant. All that matters is the threat, the need to eliminate it, to protect. No, that's not right. There is no real threat. Just drunk warriors who need to be separated, calmed down. The regular guards can handle it. You know this logically, but logic has no place in the God-Mad Gang. Even this partial state. Your body moves on instinct, pushing through the crowd, reaching for your axe. A hand grabs your arm strong as iron. Ragnar, his face tight with concern. Bear, he says, his voice low but commanding. Stop now. The world snaps back into focus. The noise of the feast returns. You realize you're standing, hand on your axe, halfway to the king's high seat, where the guards have already separated the arguing warriors. Sweat beads on your forehead, despite the hall's warmth. Your heart hammers in your chest. The fury recedes, but reluctantly, like a tide that wants to keep rising. Sit down, Ragnar says quietly. Drink water, not me. Breathe. You obey mechanically, returning to your seat, ignoring Halfdan's questioning look. Ragnar sits beside you now, his presence both reassuring and constraining. It's getting worse, he says after a while. Pitched for your ears alone, you nod, not trusting your voice. How often? More and more, you admit. Small things trigger it. Arguments, sudden movements, dreams. Ragnar's concern deepens visibly. I see battles I've fought, people I've killed, but twisted, wrong. And Raven King, you hesitate, then push ahead. Raven King watches, but he's different in these dreams. Hungry, angry. Ragnar is silent for a long moment, weighing your words. Finally, he says, you need to see the Sideconer. Your crimson tide chills at the suggestion. The Sideconeth of Velva. The witch is a powerful woman who lives apart from the settlement, consulting with the gods through ancient magic. People seek her wisdom for important decisions, for healing difficult wounds, for communicating with the dead. God mads avoid her. Your connection to Raven King comes through the mushroom rituals, through the God Mad gang itself. The Vulvar's magic is different, older, stranger, rooted in the feminine mysteries that warriors are taught to respect but never explore. Why, you ask, though you already suspect the answer. Because what's happening to you isn't normal. Even for our kind, Ragnar says. Because the mushrooms and rituals aren't working as they should. Because he hesitates, then adds softly. Because I'm worried about you, Bear. We all are. The admission startles you. Godmads aren't known for their emotional openness. They're concerned for each other's well-being. You fight together, train together, sometimes drink together. But worry, care. These are foreign concepts in the Brotherhood. Yet Ragnar's face shows genuine concern. And glancing around the table, you notice the other Godmads watching you with similar expressions. Worry mixed with weariness, as if you're a weapon that might misfire at any moment. Wait, what's happening? Let me paint you a clearer picture. The king's great hall is packed with warriors, thralls, and free women. Smoke from cooking fires hangs in the air, mingling with the smell of roasted meat, spilled meat, and unwashed bodies. Torches along the walls cast flickering light across wooden tables laden with food. The noise is constant, arguments, boasting, singing, all competing to be heard. You sit with 7 other Godmads at a table set slightly apart from the rest. Even in celebration, people give your kind space, respect tinged with fear. Your bowl contains barely touched food. Your meat cup sits half empty, pushed aside in favor of water after your near episode. Ragnar leans close, his gray beard touching your shoulder as he speaks quietly in your ear. Though in his 50s now, he remains powerful, his frame barely diminished by age. But his eyes show the weight of years of battles, of watching younger Godmads rise and fall. The Vulvar dwells in the hills to the north, he tells you. A day's journey on foot. Go tomorrow. Tell no one where you're headed. The king, you begin. I'll handle the king, Ragnar interrupts. Say you're unwell. Not far from the truth. You nod, grateful yet apprehensive. The Vulvar's reputation is fearsome. Some say she can see a person's fate in their eyes, foretell their death with a touch. Others claim she speaks with the dead, with spirits that dwell beneath the earth. But what choice do you have? The fury is growing stronger, harder to control. Soon it might take you completely, turn you into a danger to everyone around you. Thank you, you tell Ragnar, meaning it. He squeezes your shoulder, a rare gesture of affection. You're one of our best, Bear. We can't lose you to this, whatever it is. The next morning, you leave before dawn, telling the gate guards you're hunting. The path to the Vulvar's dwelling is unmarked, known only by word of mouth by those desperate enough to seek her wisdom. The journey takes you through forest and hill, across streams swollen by autumn rains. By midday, you reach a narrow valley nestled between two rocky outcrops. At its center stands a small hut, smoke rising from a hole in its turf roof. No one guards the dwelling. No fence surrounds it. Yet you feel watched, evaluated as you approach. The hair on your arms rises despite the warmth of exertion. Before you can knock, the door swings open. The woman who stands there is not what you expected. Not ancient and bent, but middle-aged, straight-backed, her dark hair strewn with silver. Her eyes, though her eyes are old beyond reckoning, deep as wells, knowing in a way that makes your skin prickle. "God-mad," she says, her voice surprisingly melodic. "I've been expecting you." A chill runs down your spine. "How did you?" "The ravens told me," she says simply, stepping aside to let you enter. Raven King's birds see much. They speak to those who know how to listen. The interior of the hut is larger than it appeared from outside, divided by hanging cloths into separate spaces. The central area contains a fire pit, its flames burning blue-green from herbs thrown into it. Smoke swirls upward, carrying a scent that reminds you of the mushroom rituals, but sharper, wilder. The Ulva gestures for you to sit on a fur-covered bench. She takes a seat opposite you, the fire between you casting strange shadows across her face. "You come because the fury is consuming you," she says without preamble, "because it rises unbidden, takes you unaware." Not a question, but you nod anyway. "When did it begin?" she asks, her hands moving above the fire, shaping the smoke into patterns you can almost recognize. You tell her about the incident by the stream, about the feast, about the increasing frequency of unexpected fury. As you speak, her eyes never leave yours, seeming to look through you into you. When you finish, she's silent for a long moment, considering the hut is quiet enough that you can hear the fire crackling, the distant call of birds outside. "The problem is not the fury itself," she finally says. "The problem is that you're fighting it." You frown, confused. "I'm trying to control it to keep it from taking me at the wrong times." "Exactly," she says, as if you've proven her point. "For years, you've been taught to channel the God-mad gang, to direct it, but not to question it, not to resist its purpose." Her eyes narrow slightly. "Yet, that's precisely what you've been doing, isn't it? Questioning, doubting, resisting." Your mouth goes dry. She sees too much. This woman knows things you've barely admitted to yourself. "The God-mad gang is Raven King's burden," she continues. "But burdens have prices. The price of this one is surrender complete. Unquestioning surrender to the All-Father's will, to the violence he demands." She leans forward, her face illuminated by the strange flames. "You've stopped paying that price, God-mad. Your body still surrenders, but your mind, your heart, they resist. They question. They doubt. Are you saying the fury is out of control? Because I what? Don't believe in it anymore?" "Not exactly." She sits back, her fingers tracing patterns in the air that leave faint trails of light. "The fury is out of control because you're at war with yourself. Part of you remains Raven King's loyal weapon. Another part recoils from what you've become, from what you've done in his name." She fixes you with those ancient eyes. "A house divided cannot stand. A warrior divided cannot fight. A God-mad divided cannot control the fury." Her words strike with the force of truth. The internal conflict you've felt since York, since earlier. The growing disconnect between what you are and what you want to be. It's tearing you apart from within. "What can I do?" you ask, your voice barely audible over the fire's crackle. The velvet studies you, her head tilted slightly as if listening to voices you cannot hear. "There are two paths before you," she says finally. "First, you can recommit yourself to Raven King, to the God-mad's way. Full surrender. No questions, no doubts. If you choose this path, I can help you with rituals, with potions that will bind you more firmly to the All-Father's will. The thought makes your stomach turn to surrender completely, to stop questioning the violence, the killing, the emptiness that follows. Can you do that? Do you want to? And the second path, you ask. Her expression softens slightly. The first hint of compassion she shown. You can walk away. You stare at her uncomprehending. Walk away from being a god-mad. That's not possible. Once marked or once marked, always marked. She agrees. The fury will never leave you entirely. Raven King's touch is permanent. She leans forward again, her voice dropping to a near whisper. But you can reject his claim on your soul. You can turn from his service. Seek a different path. The Brotherhood would never allow it, you say. Thinking of Ragnar, of the king, of the oaths you've sworn. No, she consts. They wouldn't. Which is why those who choose this path must leave. Everything. Everyone. Her gaze is steady, unflinching. It is a kind of death. God-mad. A death of who you were in the hope of becoming someone new. The choice she offers is no choice at all. Stay and surrender completely to Raven King, to the fury, to the killing, or leave everything behind, your position, your wealth, your comrades, your identity, to seek what? Some unknown path, some uncertain future. I need time, you say, to think, to decide. The Velva nods unsurprised. Time you have, but not much. The divide within you grows wider each day. Soon it will break you completely. She rises, moves to a shelf along the wall, selects a small clay pot. This will help for now. A tea to calm the fury when you feel it rising unasked. It's not a solution, only a delay. You take the pot, tucking it into your belt pouch. Thank you. She looks at you with those ancient eyes, seeing not just who you are, but who you might become. Choose soon, God-mad. Choose wisely. The journey back to the king's settlement is longer than the journey out, though the distance is the same. Your mind is heavy with the Vulvar's words, with the choice she's laid before you. Stay and surrender completely, or leave and lose everything. No, that's not right. Not everything. Just everything. External position, wealth. Comrades. What about what's internal? Your humanity, your soul. The person you might have been if Raven King hadn't claimed you as a child. These thoughts occupy you so completely that you don't notice the changing weather until it's upon you, a sudden storm. Wind driving rain sideways, turning the forest path to mud. You seek shelter beneath an outcropping of rock, building a small fire more for light than warmth, waiting for the storm to pass. As night falls, as the rain continues unabated, you find yourself doing something you haven't done in years. Praying not to Raven King, but to someone, anyone, some power that might offer guidance, direction, a way forward through the impossible choice before you. No answer comes, just the endless rain, the crackling fire, the weight of decision heavy on your shoulders. You return to the settlement the next day, mud splattered and weary. Ragnar meets you at the gate, his expression grim. The king wants to see you, he says without greeting. Now your stomach sinks. Did something happen while I was gone? Ragnar's face gives nothing away. Just come. The king's private chambers are sparsely furnished. A bed, a table covered with maps and documents, a few chairs. Harold himself stands by the window looking out at the rain-soaked settlement. He turns as you enter, his expression unreadable. Where were you yesterday? He asks without preamble. You hesitate, caught between truth and lie. Hing. You say finally, sticking to your original story. Harold's eyes narrow slightly. With no bow, no spear, no game to show for it. Your mind races. Someone must have seen you leave, noticed your lack of hunting equipment. I needed time alone. You amend to think, to clear my head. Because of what happened at the feast, the king says, not a question. Your crimson tide chills. He knows. Of course he knows. Nothing happens in his hall without his knowledge. Yes, my king, you admit. I've been struggling with control. Harold exchanges a glance with Ragnar, who stands silently by the door. Then he turns back to you, his gaze direct, evaluating. For how long? Again, the temptation to lie again. The realization it would be pointless since York, you say, getting worse over time. And you didn't think to tell me a dangerous edge enters the king's voice. That one of my personal guards, one of my elite godmads, was losing control of the very thing that makes him valuable. You have no good answer for this. The truth that you feared his reaction, feared being discarded like a broken weapon, would only anger him further. I thought I could master it, you say instead. I've always been good at controlling the godmad gang. Until you weren't, Harold says coldly. He moves to the table, picks up a piece of parchment. 3 incidents now. The stream after the Swedish skirmish, the feast, and yesterday in the training yard. Your confusion must show on your face, because Ragnar speaks for the first time since entering. While you were away, I was sparring with Halfdan. Something happened. The fury took me unexpectedly. Understanding dawns cold and clear. It's not just you. The god-mad gang is becoming unpredictable for others as well. Starting with the oldest, most experienced godmads, Ragnar, now in his 50s, and you initiated younger than most, the mushroom ritual's part of your life for longer than anyone else in the current brotherhood. It's the mushrooms, you say, the realization spilling out before you can stop it. Years of them. They're changing something inside us. Harold's expression darkens. So, you're saying my elite warriors, the backbone of my conquests, are becoming unreliable because of the very thing that makes them special. Put that way, it sounds like a death sentence for you, for Ragnar, for any godmad showing signs of lost control. Not unreliable, you say quickly. Just in need of adjustment, different rituals, perhaps, or retirement. The king interrupts, his voice flat. At least from close proximity to me. The word hangs in the air, its implications clear. Retirement for a godmad doesn't mean a peaceful old age. It means being sent away, stationed at some distant outpost, used for shock troops in battle, but kept far from the king from positions of trust and honor. My king, Ragnar begins, but Harold silences him with a gesture. My decision is made, he says. Both of you will leave the personal guard. Ragnar, you'll take command of the godmad contingent at the northern settlement. As for you, he turns to you. You'll join the raid on Dublin in the spring. Until then, you'll train with the regular warriors, not the godmads. Stay away from the mushroom rituals, from anything that might trigger episodes. It's both better and worse than you expected. Not execution or banishment, but definitely demotion, loss of status, loss of the brotherhood that has defined you for most of your life, or perhaps an opportunity. The Vulver spoke of walking away, of choosing a different path. Could this be the beginning of that journey? Yes, my king, you say, bowing your head to hide the thoughts that must surely show on your face. Harold dismisses you with a wave, already turning back to his maps, his plans, his kingdom. You are a problem dealt with, a potential threat neutralized, no longer worthy of his full attention. Outside the king's chambers, Ragnar grips your arm, pulls you into an alcove where no one can overhear. The Velva, he says without preamble. What did she tell you? You hesitate, then decide on truth. That I'm at war with myself. That I've stopped surrendering completely to Raven King, to the Fury. That's why it's breaking free, coming unbidden. Ragnar's expression is complex worry, understanding, something like recognition. And your choice is recommit fully to the godmad path, or walk away from it all. Ragnar nods slowly, as if confirming something he already suspected. The same choice she gave me 20 years ago. This surprises you. You went to her had the same problems? Yes. Ragnar's eyes are distant remembering. After a raid on Frankish lands, the Fury started coming at odd moments, taking me by surprise. So I sought the Vulvar's wisdom, and you chose to recommit, you say, understanding now, to surrender completely to Raven King. Ragnar's smile is sad, knowing I did, and it worked for a time. The Fury came only when called. My place in the Brotherhood was secure. His hand tightens on your arm, but nothing lasts forever, Bear. Not even Raven King's favor. Now the Fury slips free again, and the choice returns. What will you do? You ask. I'll go north as the king commands, Ragnar says. Command the god-mads there until I can't anymore. Until the Fury takes me completely, or age weakens me beyond usefulness. His eyes meet yours, serious as a death oath. But you, Bear, you're young still. You have time for a different choice. You understand what he's saying, what he's suggesting. You think I should walk away. I think you should consider it. Ragnar corrects. The path I chose, it served me well enough. But looking back, he hesitates, then plunges ahead. Looking back, I wonder what else I might have been. Who else I might have become. The admission stuns you. Ragnar, the epitome of the god-mad, the most devoted of Raven King's warriors, harboring doubts, regrets. Think on it, he says, releasing your arm. You have until spring to decide, until the Dublin raid. He starts to turn away, then pauses. Whatever you choose, Bear, know this. You've been like a son to me, the best of my students. I'm proud of the warrior you've become. With that, he's gone, striding down the corridor toward the training yard, toward the life that still claims him despite his doubts, leaving you alone with a choice that seems impossible: to stay on a path that's destroying you from within, or to walk away from everything you've ever known, everyone who's ever cared for you, into an uncertain future. No, not everyone. Ragnar's words echo in your mind, his pride in you, his suggestion that another path might be possible. For the first time in years, something stirs within the hollowest inside you. Not fury, not the god-mad gang's fury, but something quieter, more human. Hope. Winter settles over the settlement like a white shroud. Snow piles against wooden walls, turns paths to treacherous ice, forces everyone indoors except for necessary tasks. The cold seeps into your bones, making old battle wounds ache, reminding you of your mortality, despite your strength, your training, your supposed favor with the gods. You live now in a small hut at the edge of the settlement, no longer housed with the other god-mads near the king's hall. Your days are spent training regular warriors, teaching them axe techniques, shield formations, the basics of combat. It's honest work, not dishonorable, but the warriors look at you differently now. The whispers follow you everywhere. How you lost control, how the king demoted you, how the mighty god-mad fell from grace. The Vulvar's tea helps when the fury threatens to surface, calming the fire in your crimson tide, allowing you to maintain control, but it's a temporary measure, as she warned. Not a solution, just a delay of the inevitable choice. Ragnar visits occasionally before he departs for his northern assignment. You share me, exchange news, reminisce about battles fought together. Neither of you mentions the choice that hangs over your heads: to recommit or to walk away. But it's there in every silence, every unfinished sentence, every look that lingers too long. The Dublin raid looms closer with each passing day. Ships are being prepared, warriors selected, supplies gathered. You go through the motions of preparation, sharpening your axe, checking your armor, joining the planning sessions with the raid leaders. But your heart isn't in it because you've made your decision. Or perhaps it's made itself gradually, inexorably, like a river finding its path to the sea. You're going to walk away, not just from the raid, but from all of it, the brotherhood, the god-mad path, the service to Raven King and the king. You're going to seek that uncertain future. The Vulver spoke of that different path. Ragnar wondered about the question is how and when. The answer comes on the last night of winter when the ice begins to crack on the fjord. When the first hints of spring stir in the air. You're in your hut preparing for sleep when a knock sounds at your door. Halfdan stands outside his massive frame, silhouetted against the night sky. "Walk with me," he says without greeting. You follow him away from the settlement into the forest where you've hunted and trained countless times. The night is clear, stars shimmering above, the air crisp with lingering winter. Neither of you speaks until you're well away from any ears that might overhear. You're planning to leave. Halfdan says finally, stopping in a small clearing, not a question. Your hand drifts to your axe, a warrior's instinct when confronted with potential threat. What makes you think that? Haft notices the gesture and snorts. If I wanted to stop you, I wouldn't have come alone. He sits on a fallen log, gesturing for you to join him. I've known you since you were 8, Bear. I can read your thoughts in your face. You relax slightly, taking a seat on the log, keeping some distance between you. So, you've come to what? Talk me out of it. No. Halfdan's voice is surprisingly gentle. I've come to help you do it right. This is the last thing you expected. Halfdan, offering to help you desert, to break your oaths to the Brotherhood, to the king, to Raven King himself. Why? You ask, genuinely bewildered. Halfdan is silent for a long moment, looking up at the stars. Because I can't, he says finally. Leave. I mean, it's too late for me. The Brotherhood, the god-mad gang. It's all I know, all I am. His eyes find yours in the darkness. But you've always been different. Questioning, thinking even as a child. You make it sound like a good thing, you say. The Brotherhood taught me it was weakness. Maybe it is, Halfdan admits. Or maybe it's strength of a different kind. He shrugs his massive shoulders. Either way, it's who you are, and who you are doesn't fit the god-mad path anymore. Maybe it never did. The words strike you with the force of truth. Maybe you never truly belonged in the Brotherhood despite your skill, your control of the god-mad gang. Maybe Raven King chose you not because you were suited to his service, but because he wanted to shape you to his will, to break the part of you that questioned, that doubted. So, what's your plan? You ask, accepting Halfdan's offer of help. The Dublin raid launches in 3 days, he says. The night before, there will be a feast. The king will speak. Sacrifices will be made to ensure good winds, safe passage. He leans closer, his voice dropping. During the feast, you'll slip away. Take only what you can carry easily. Head east into the hills, away from the coast where they might look for you. They'll search, you point out. Desertion is a serious offense for a day or 2. Halfdan agrees. But the raid can't wait. The ships must sail with the tide, and once they're gone, he spreads his hands. Those left behind won't have the manpower for a prolonged search, especially for one man who knows the forests, who can survive in the wild. It's a solid plan, simple, but effective. Yet something troubles you. Why are you helping me? You're risking your own position, your honor. Halfdan's smile is sad in the starlight. Because someone should get free, Bear. Someone should find out if there's another way to live. He stands, brushing snow from his cloak. And if anyone can do it, it's you. The next 2 days pass in a blur of preparation. Not for the raid, but for your escape. You gather supplies discreetly. Dried meat, hard bread, a flint for fire starting, extra clothing for the still cold spring nights. You sharpen your axe one final time. Check the straps on your shield. You'll need both where you're going, not for battle, but for survival. You also visit the vulva again, making the journey swiftly, returning before you're missed. She seems unsurprised by your decision, by your plans. The path ahead will not be easy, she warns, preparing more of the tea that helps control the fury. Raven King doesn't surrender his marked warriors willingly. But it can be done, you press. I can break free of his influence. Not entirely, she admits. The God-mad gang is part of you now. Bone deep, soul deep. But with time, with discipline, with ease, she hands you a pouch of herbs, another of mushrooms, different from the ones used in God-mad rituals. You can learn to truly control it. To call on it only when you choose, not when it chooses you. It's more than you dared hope for. Not complete freedom from Raven King's burden, but mastery of it. A way to keep the strength, the power without the madness, the loss of self. Thank you, you tell her, meaning it from the depths of your being. Her ancient eyes study you, seeing paths and possibilities you can only guess at. Go with the gods, she says, but not with Raven King. He has had enough of you. The night of the feast arrives, cold and clear, stars scattered across the sky like silver coins on a black cloak. The great hall is packed with warriors preparing for the Dublin raid, with THRS serving food, and mead with the king and his advisors at the high table. The noise is deafening, boasting, laughing, singing, the clash of drinking horns in toasts to victory and wealth. You sit at a table near the back, far from your usual place of honor. No one pays you much attention. Your fall from grace is old news now. Your presence at the feast expected, but unremarkable. Halfdan catches your eye from across the room, gives a small nod. It's time. You rise casually, as if going to relieve yourself outside. No one notices as you slip through the door into the cold night air. Your packed supplies are hidden in a hollow tree at the edge of the settlement. Your extra weapons buried beneath a distinctive stone. You retrieve them quickly, silently, keeping to shadows, avoiding the few guards on duty. And then you're moving through the forest, away from the settlement, away from the only life you've known since childhood. The pack on your back contains everything you own now. Food, clothing, tools, the vulvar's herbs and mushrooms. Your axe hangs at your side, familiar and deadly. Your shield is strapped across your back, its weight comforting despite the burden. You hike through the night, putting as much distance as possible between yourself and the settlement before dawn. The forest is dark, but you know these paths, these trees. You've hunted here, trained here, lived here all your life. When dawn breaks, you're high in the hills, looking down at the fjord where the raid ships are being prepared. Tiny figures move about, final supplies being loaded, last farewells being said. By midday, they'll be gone, sailing toward Dublin, toward battle and plunder without you. The thought brings a surge of emotions: relief, guilt, fear, hope. The Brotherhood has been your family, your identity, your purpose for so long. Walking away feels like cutting off a limb, like dying and being reborn in the same moment. You continue eastward deeper into the hills toward the interior of Norway, where settlements are fewer, farther between, where a solitary man might find space to breathe, to think, to become something new. The first few weeks are the hardest, not physically. You're well-trained, well-equipped for survival in the wild. The hardest part is the silence, the solitude, the absence of the Brotherhood's routines and rituals. For the first time since childhood, you're truly alone with your thoughts, your doubts, your questions, and with the fury. It comes still, unpredictable and fierce, triggered by small frustrations, by bad dreams, by the howling of wolves that reminds you of battle cries. When it comes, you use the vulvar's tea, her techniques for calming the fire in your crimson tide. Sometimes it works. Sometimes you find yourself coming back to awareness, surrounded by broken branches, torn undergrowth, your hands crimson tidy from pounding against trees or rocks. But slowly, gradually, you begin to gain control. Real control. Not the partial mastery you had as a god-mad, but a deeper understanding of the fury, of its triggers, of how to channel it when necessary and suppress it when not. The Velva's special mushrooms help not by inducing visions of Raven King, but by quieting the mind, by allowing you to look inward to see the patterns of thought and emotion that lead to the berserk. Then, you use them sparingly, respectfully, as tools for understanding rather than weapons for battle. Spring deepens into summer. You build a small hut beside a stream, hunt and fish for food, gather wild plants to supplement your diet. You encounter few people, the occasional hunter, traders moving between settlements, a family relocating to new lands. They eye you wearily, a solitary man with battle scars and a warrior's weapons. But you trade fairly, speak softly, reveal little of yourself. None recognize you as a god-mad. None know of your past, your desertion, your internal struggle. To them, you're just a hunter, a loner, one of many who prefer the wilderness to the crowded halls of chieftains and kings. In your head, you're thinking, this can't be it. Just existing in the woods. But something strange happens as the months pass. The hollowness inside you, the emptiness that has been your constant companion since your first battle begins to fill. Not with fury or crimson tide lust or raven kings demanding presence, but with simpler, quieter things. The satisfaction of building with your hands. The peace of watching sunrise paint the hills gold. The accomplishment of tracking and bringing down a deer with a single clean shot. You are becoming, you realize, a different kind of person. Not just a weapon, not just a god-mad, but a whole human being with thoughts and feelings and choices of your own. The fury still comes, but less frequently, less intensely. You learn to feel it approaching, to head it off before it consumes you. You discover that physical exertion, chopping wood, running, swimming in the icy stream, helps dissipate the energy that might otherwise feed the god-mad gang. Summer fades into autumn. The hills blaze with colored gold russet. You prepare for winter, smoking meat, gathering nuts and berries, reinforcing your hut against the coming cold. You're not just surviving now. You're living, planning, looking ahead to a future that feels increasingly your own. And then on the first truly cold day of autumn, visitors arrive at your hut. 3 men armed but not obviously hostile. Warriors by their bearing, their weapons, their scars. You're chopping wood when they appear at the edge of the clearing, and you set down your axe slowly, careful not to make threatening moves. You're not easy to find, the leader says, stepping forward. He's older, gray-bearded, with the weathered face of a man who's spent years at sea. We've been searching for months. Your heart sinks, the king's men, you assume, come to bring the deserter back for punishment or execution. How did you find me? You ask, buying time, calculating your chances if you need to fight or flee. The Volver, the man says. She told us where to look or close enough. This surprises you. The Volver betraying you after helping you escape, after giving you the means to control the fury. Why? You demand. Why would she tell you? The man's expression softens slightly. Because we ask for her help, because we need yours. Now you're truly confused. My help with what? The man gestures to his companions who hang back, watching wearily. We're from the northern settlement where Ragnar was sent to command the godmads. Was the past tense chills your crimson tide? What happened to Ragnar? The man's face grows grim. The fury took him completely during a raid against Swedish pirates. He killed 6 of our own men before we could subdue him. He pauses, letting the words sink in. He's been contained, but we don't know what to do with him. He's too valuable to kill, too dangerous to release. And you think I can help? You ask, though you're beginning to understand why they've sought you out. The Volver says you found a way to control the fury, to master it rather than be mastered by it. The man's eyes are pleading now. Ragnar was our best, our leader. If anyone can reach him, bring him back from this madness. It's you. You should refuse. You've walked away from that life, from the Brotherhood, from the God-mad gang's destructive power. You're building something new here, something peaceful, something yours. But Ragnar, who trained you, who protected you, who encouraged you to seek your own path, even when he couldn't follow. Ragnar, who was like a father to you when your own was lost at sea. How far, you ask? 3 days' journey, the man says. If we leave now, we can make good progress before nightfall. You look around at your hut, your clearing, the life you've been building. It will wait, you decide. It will be here when you return, if you return. Let me gather some things, you say. The journey north is hard, but uneventful. The men you learn their names, Eric, Gunnar, and Torira, respectful, grateful for your help, curious about your months in the wilderness. You tell them little, focusing instead on what awaits at the settlement. Ragnar's condition, the other godmads, the overall situation. It's bad. Eric admits as you make camp on the second night. Ragnar's not the only one affected. 2 others have shown similar symptoms. The fury coming unbidden, harder to control. We've had to separate them from the general population. The mushroom rituals, you ask? Are they still performing them? Less frequently, Eric says, after what happened with Ragnar. But it's not enough. The damage is already done. You nod, unsurprised. Years of the god-mad mushrooms have changed something fundamental in the older warriors, altered their connection to the Fury, to Raven King, to their own humanity, just as they did to you. The northern settlement comes into view late on the 3rd day. A collection of wooden buildings surrounded by a palisade wall situated at the mouth of a smaller fjord. It's perhaps 1/3 the size of the king's settlement, but substantial nonetheless. With smoke rising from multiple hearths, small ships docked along a wooden pier. Eric leads you not to the main gates, but to a smaller entrance on the western side. Less visible, less trafficked. Better not to announce your presence too widely, he explains. The king still considers you a deserter, even if we don't. Inside, the settlement is much like any other people going about their daily tasks. Children playing, animals in pens. The rhythms of Norse life continuing regardless of politics or problems. I guides you through narrow paths between buildings, eventually stopping at a sturdy structure set apart from the others. Its door reinforced with iron bands. A guard posted outside. He's in there, Eric says, nodding toward the building. Has been for 2 weeks now. We bring him food, water, but no one stays inside for long. He's unpredictable. You take a deep breath, centering yourself, preparing for what you might find. I need to go in alone, you tell Eric, and I need time. Don't interrupt unless you hear me call for help. Eric nods, instructing the guard to unlock the door. Good luck, he says as you step forward, for his sake and ours. The interior of the building is dim, lit only by what sunlight filters through small high windows. It takes a moment for your eyes to adjust, to make out the figure sitting against the far wall, knees drawn up to his chest, head bowed. Ragnar, but not the Ragnar you remember. This man is thinner, his hair and beard wild and unkempt, his clothes torn and stained. He looks up as you enter, and his eyes, once sharp, intelligent, commanding, air wide, and unfocused, darting around like a trapped animal's. Who's there? He growls, his voice rough from disuse or from screaming. Come to gawk at the mad dog in his cage. It's me, you say, keeping your distance, your voice calm. Bear. Ragnar blinks, some of the wildness leaving his expression. Bear, he repeats, disbelieving. They said you deserted before the Dublin raid. I did, you confirm. Then why are you here? Why aren't you dead or enslaved for desertion? I've been living in the eastern hills, you tell him. Alone, learning to control the fury without the brotherhood, without the rituals. Ragnar's laugh is harsh, bitter. Control. There is no control. Not anymore. Raven King has abandoned us. Or we've abandoned him. Either way, the burden has become a curse. He pulls up his sleeve, showing arms scratched and bitten, self-inflicted wounds from episodes of uncontrolled fury. There is a way, you insist, moving closer, kneeling to meet him at eye level. I've found it, or the beginning of it at least. How? The word is desperate, pleading, so unlike the strong, confident Ragnar you've known all your life. You tell him about the vulvar, about her herbs and mushrooms, about the techniques you've developed in your months of solitude, about looking inward instead of outward, about understanding the rag's triggers, about channeling its energy into productive rather than destructive outlets. Ragnar listens with growing attention, some of the old intelligence returning to his eyes. And it works, he asks. When you finish, you can control the God-Mad Gang now. Truly control it. Not perfectly, you admit, but better than before. Better than I ever could as part of the Brotherhood. You hesitate, then add what you know he needs to hear. I think you can learn it, too, if you're willing to try. If you're willing to change how you think about Raven King, about the Fury, about yourself. Ragnar is silent for a long moment, considering. Then he looks up, meeting your gaze directly for the first time. Teach me, he says simply. And so you do. Days pass into weeks. You stay at the northern settlement, working with Ragnar daily, teaching him what you've learned, adapting the techniques to his specific needs. It's hard, frustrating work. The fury still takes him sometimes, leaving you bruised, leaving him despairing. But slowly, gradually, he begins to gain control, real control, not the partial mastery he had as a God-Mad leader. The other affected God-Mads join the training. Some take to it better than others. Some may never fully master the fury again. To many years of mushroom rituals, too deep a surrender to Raven King's will. But they all improve. All gain some measure of stability, of self-determination. Autumn deepens toward winter. Snow falls, covering the settlement in white silence. You know you should return to your hut in the eastern hills before the passes become impossible. But something holds you here. Not just Ragnar and the other God-Mads, but a growing sense of purpose, of meaning. You're helping others like yourself, using your experience, your suffering, your hard-won wisdom to guide them toward a better way of living with Raven King's burden. It's not the life you imagined when you walked away from the Brotherhood, but it feels right. It feels like your path. On the winter solstice, the darkest day of the year, Ragnar seeks you out at the small hut they've given you at the edge of the settlement. I've been thinking, he says, sitting beside your fire, accepting the me you offer about what comes next for all of us. You wait, letting him gather his thoughts. We can't go back to what we were, he continues. The Brotherhood, the King's God-Mads, Raven King's weapons. That path is closed to us now. He looks at you, his eyes clear and focused in a way they haven't been since you arrived. But we still have the fury. We still have the strength, the skill. We're still warriors. Just not God-Mads, you say, understanding where he's headed. Not as the world knows God-Mads, Ragnar agrees, but something new, something different. He leans forward, his voice intense. I've spoken with Eric, with the settlement's leaders. They're willing to give us land to let us establish our own place, a training ground for warriors like us, where we can teach what you've taught us, control, mastery, a different way of being strong. The idea takes root in your mind, growing, expanding, a place for former God-Mads, for warriors struggling with fury or crimson tide lust or the aftermath of battle. A place of healing as well as training. A place where Raven King's burden can be shaped into something less destructive, more purposeful. Not just for God-Mads, you suggest, for any warrior who needs a different path. Ragnar nods, a smile breaking across his face. The first genuine smile you've seen from him since your arrival. Yes, exactly. He raises his cup in a toast to a different path. You raise your cup in return to a different path. As winter settles over the northern settlement, as you and Ragnar begin planning this new venture, this new way of being warriors without being mere weapons, you find yourself thinking of the Vulvar's words from months ago. A death of who you were in the hope of becoming someone new. She was right. The god-mad you were is dead. The weapon you were forged to be is broken. In their place stands someone new, still marked by Raven King. Still carrying the fury within you, but no longer defined by it, no longer controlled by it. And as you drift towards sleep in your small hut, surrounded by the winter silence, the fury quieted to a distant whisper, you feel something you haven't felt since childhood, since before the All-Father chose you for his service. Peace, a quiet contentment settles over you, deep and soothing like the blankets that now wrap your body in your own warm bed. The story of the god-mad fades into dreams as your breathing slows, as your mind drifts towards sleep's gentle embrace. Rest now, knowing that even the fiercest warriors found their peace in the end.